Hello there and welcome to the channel. Welcome back, perhaps. Today we are going to be doing something that has been a great deal of pleasure for us putting together over the last couple of weeks, involving the joys of the POG 2. But that's around for a different reason, which we will be exploring in another video. The main reason that we're going to be exploring it today is in relation to some fuzz. And the basic idea here was, of course, as we have available on our large pedal board that we've been building for a while, an octave circuit before the Jackson Audio modular fuzzes that we're using. We have been experimenting a little bit with those octave circuits to do octave fuzz. There are videos to that on the channel, and even though we haven't got something conclusive yet, we have enjoyed that experimenting. But what we figured would be very interesting to try with the POG 2 would be to try octave fuzz and multiple octave fuzzes, meaning 2 octave fuzz, minus octave fuzzes, both -1 and -2, and combinations thereof. So we have some settings already in the POG's very handy preset slots. We're going to be starting with number 2, and the basic reason for that is because we started with having number 1 as a blank preset, but we decided that we had 8 ideas at least in us, and so we used slot number 1 to do an 8th preset. Let's begin. Also worth noting that we have pictures of the different presets that will be coming up as we introduce them. And let's maybe just dive in, because first of all what we want to be doing is demonstrating what things sound like without any POG and without any fuzz. So what we're going to do first off is play you the sample that we are going to use, which is the full range of the contrabass clarinet, and then we will add the fuzz the second time through, and that will hopefully give you an idea of what's going on here. So, currently no fuzz. Here is our basic sample. No effects. Okay, so that gives you a little taste, not just of the basic sample, but also of the fuzz and the few different variations that we can get with the fuzz. Basically, the one that we just turned it back to is the one that we found to be the nicest balance of like low strength, like low frequencies and high frequencies. Then down here is a very muted kind of effect, a darker sound, and then bringing it up here we have basically it goes from least treble to most treble, and this is the one that we found to be the most balanced. One other thing that we will be adding, which we will do as an effect to demonstrate, is our spring reverb on the R1 and our sustain effect on the nightsky. So I will just give you a quick shot of those. I will also mention at this point that this is probably going to be a two-parter. And what we think we're going to do is show you the first 4 presets that we've got, which will be presets 2 to 5, and then we will show the others, and that also works quite nicely, dividing up the different octave, the ways of approaching the octaves, as you will see. But for now, let's show what the fuzz is like with some of these additional effects on. So here it is as is. There we go. So the plan is to basically run through the presets. We will give you a quick rundown of them, of what the preset actually is, maybe some other little comments there, and then do an example of it with only the POG, without the fuzz, add the fuzz, add the other effects. Also, maybe just doing a quick note that as it is now, there is very little that engaging the POG does to the dry tone, and we can hear that. I'm just going to switch to a slightly different sample so that we're not taking so long with this, but you'll hear that when the POG is engaged, then there's not really that much difference in the tone. what I did there was I simply added these channels into the dry signal. What this button does is when it's red, it introduces only the attack function into the dry signal, onto the dry signal. When I do the green, it is the attack and the low pass filter. And then when I do the yellow, it's all three. But these three are actually set at the moment to their minimum settings. So it's worth noting that when the POG is like this, it has little effect. When the effect bank is brought in, it does already start changing the tone, even of just the dry signal. So just a little note there. Okay, so let's get into the first preset number 2, which, as you can see, has some Q added, but this is basically an octave fuzz. However, the reason that this is relevant to what we were just talking about is that detune is added, as you will see in the picture. However, it's not actually added to the dry signal. Detune is added only to the octave up, which leads to a very pleasant effect we have found. Okay, so here's the first preset. First of all, without the fuzz. Okay, so hopefully you can agree that that's something that's rather special and enjoyable there. The fun thing there is having that detune on only the additional octave that's added there, which I think allows us to have like a real solid core of the sound, while also having that really interesting movement in there. One thing you may have noticed is that there is, like, especially in the top register of the contra there is a certain like rhythm there that is, it becomes a very kind of like, no, I'm not going to say predictable, but it becomes like a very regular rhythm, which I can see that being very useful and enjoyable in certain circumstances, but it takes away from the certain unpredictability that we're quite fond of. And that's actually something that you will see is kind of a consistent challenge when dealing with this kind of thing, where we want the registers to have a certain evenness about them, where when we get into the higher or the lower register, it doesn't fall into a more predictable rhythm, so that there's a certain amount of variance in all registers. Anyway, that's our first one. Let's go to number 3, the second one, which you will be seeing on your screen now. And yep, first of all, we'll start without the fuzz. And this one is 2 octaves up, so not any 1 octave up, only the 2 octaves up. And this one has lots of detune on, as you can see, the dry and the wet. Okay, let's dive in. something beautifully oceanic about that one, I feel. And also very interesting to try it with the different fuzz tones. I noticed that when we had it down at the more muted versions, we got a certain amount of like the 2 octaves up was kind of like in the higher register of the contra was kind of like the 2 octaves up was poking through a little bit more than we would like with something of a more like metallic effect, which was not maybe quite as pleasant. But also, though, there's that this is also a situation where I think that effect of like having a different rhythm in the upper octave, like having a certain rhythm come through when we go into that higher octave, is actually not unpleasant. Also, some of that same 2 octave metallic thing in the slightly thinner fuzz sound as well, the more top heavy. I do feel that it's that there's a good reason that that's our favorite setting there, and that has such a great balance of overtones. Okay, for the time being, let's do one more. Seeing as we've done a good setup, we feel, for you there, and this is going to be a setting that uses both 1 octave up and 2 octaves up. So make sure we're starting in the right place. Everything that needs to be off is off. This is, as I say, +1 and +2 octaves. We also here started bringing the dry volume down a bit to balance things out, and the D tune and Q is very, very carefully balanced. This took us a lot of balancing to get it just right. Apparently, in my notes, it's also saying that if we add the Q up a little bit, we also get an interesting effect. Let's have a listen to that and see how it goes. So first of all, we will start with just the pog, then we will add our other things. Here we go. lovely stuff. And that was a nice bit of exploration there with the various different tones, changing the cue. We tried that with a different fuzz sound there as well. And I do think that it's when we start combining octaves that we start to get the really interesting internal rhythms for the octave fuzz sound that cover all of the registers in a very interesting way. So whether it's the high register of the contra or the low register, there's it never settles into too predictable a rhythm. And of course, with something like the Pog, where we can have multiple octaves available, that's what it's for. We're using it to our advantage there. Okay, well, we set things up very nicely there, we feel, once again. We've given you all of the ones that we've devised using only octave up or 2 octave up materials. We are going to take a little break and then come back and show you the ones using sub-octaves, 1 octave down, 2 octave down, and combining all 5 registers together for a couple of presets as well. So, hope this is interesting and enjoyable for you so far. And please join us for the next installment of this. We're just getting started in some ways. See you soon. Be well in the meantime.